I think that you and I have done a really good job on this channel so far, creating content that sort of encapsulates what we love about the NBA and why we watch it so much. I think a lot of people do a really good job with that. I don't mean to sound like well, we don't talk about this enough guy, but today I wanted to talk about something that I don't think we talk enough about. And I think this might get a little bit gloomy and a little bit weird. So that's why I wanted to do a little bit of a softer background, a little bit of it literally and figuratively. This still feels a little bit too formal, though. So let's change it up a little bit. See? Isn't this a lot better? Don't you love how this looks a lot more than my stupid little bit? You're probably thinking, Nick, why did you drag us all the way out here for this? What exactly are we doing right now? What's the plan? Are we talking about anything today? Yes, we're going to be talking about something. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was comfortable. And I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning to get this shot. And I want to show you something, actually. You guys don't think I do nice things for you? Here, look at that. How pretty is that, huh? How pretty is that? All right, let's get back to the video finally. It wasn't too many years ago that DeMar DeRozan was one of the first players to come out and be like, hey, something's going on with me. I'm battling with a lot of stuff right now. And he talked about his depression. He talked about his anxiety and how it affects him and his game and his everyday life, even outside of basketball. And then who followed suit? It was Kevin Love. Kevin Love came out in the Players Tribune and actually wrote a piece chronicling panic attacks that he was having inside of basketball games. I think this is really important because, like I said, we look at these players a lot of times like they're a Monopoly piece, and I think for them to be humanized in this really intimate and emotional way, I think is really important for us as fans to connect with them on a level that's bigger than basketball. Kevin Love had come out, and again, he wrote this story, and then I remember it was just a few short hours after the story actually was published that he tweeted, he's like, hey, here's my email. I want to hear from you guys. Please talk to me about your experiences and what you deal with, and maybe hopefully I've helped in some way. I had gotten to that tweet early enough. I think it was literally within the first 60 seconds that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do something about this, right? I absolutely have to. So I remember I frantically wrote like a few paragraphs, was like, Kevin Love, thank you for doing all this. Thank you so much for sharing this, opening up to the world, and trying to make us feel like we're kind of on the same level. If not for just a few minutes, it meant the world to me. I hit send. I sent that email, and it was probably like 8 months later, because at the time I was like a teenager. If you're a teenager, you probably don't have to check your email that much. I do now as an adult. As part of being adults, you have to check your email, but I didn't back then. So like 8 months later, I see who actually replied to that email. He replied to it the day that I sent it, and I don't think I had ever been more mad at myself than I was in that. And I'm not going to read what I said in the email because it was, I've struggled with a lot of things for a majority of my life. And again, it just felt really nice to feel like I could kind of relate to him and connect for just a few minutes. And I blew it. And look, no, I know he was never going to email me back. I knew that I should never have even anticipated that or put that thought into my head. The fact that I even got one, I should have been grateful for that. But it a little bit to me was like maybe I could have been best friends with Kevin Love. Big what if for me, for sure. I think I did make a little bit of I said DeMar DeRozan is the one who kind of pioneered this whole thing, and technically that's not true because Larry Sanders actually did. And I think it was in 2015 that he retired, and I believe mental health was actually cited as one of the reasons. I don't remember if it was the reason, but it was certainly one of the reasons. And sort of this crippling stuff that he dealt with was so debilitating that he was like, I don't want to play this game. It's not a game to me. Like, my life is me being alive is a lot more important than this game right now. I liked Larry Sanders a lot, and it around the time that happened to him was when I maybe started to realize some of that stuff about myself. So it was kind of this weird, like, okay, so even NBA players are dealing with this. So this it's not just me. This is right, you know what I mean? Like, this is everybody. And that was kind of wild, honestly, because at the time, I know that right now it's something that people will regularly talk about, but it's not something that people are still uncomfortable talking about. Imagine how they felt, 7 or 8 years ago, bringing up this thing where people were like, you don't want to be alive? Why? Everything's awesome. What do you mean you don't want to be alive? And the internet started to kind of become there was a lot going on. it's truly the courage that it took was immeasurable for Larry Sanders to try to get the ball rolling on this conversation that desperately needed to happen, not just in the NBA, but in the world. But the NBA especially was having a really difficult time navigating this sort of a thing. And I think the Milwaukee Bucks, just 1 year prior to all this happening, they did something really good. Now, this is something that I wish Milwaukee got more credit for. I wish we talked a little bit more about how the Bucks kind of pioneered this whole thing, because I think it was in 2014, if memory serves, that they hired Ramel Smith, and he was brought in to be the team psychologist, and he was put on the fast track to basically just be a part of the everyday happenings of the team. Because I think one thing that I don't think people know is that the league got to a point where a lot of guys were very clearly unhappy, and they couldn't exactly figure out why. Here's a quick little story about that. I don't honestly remember if they were ever publicly named, but I remember around the same time as this Larry Sanders stuff, there was a report that came out of, I think it was a general manager or some executive for some unnamed NBA team who was realizing that a player that they had recently signed in free agency was sort of on this declining trajectory mentally, and he was trying to get him some help, and he went to the team owner, the owner of the team, and was like, hey, something's going on with him. I feel like we need to try to figure this out. You know what the owner said? I just gave him $30 million worth of mental health. I'm just trying to think all the time. What are some things that have happened in the NBA that have made people happy? Oh, Chris Paul. Chris Paul just went to the finals. Things like that. Things like Devin Booker, NBA Finals. Wow, impressed. That's pretty cool. I know all the injuries suck, but wow, Chris Paul. That's pretty cool. Steve Ballmer slapping some dudes on the penis. Like, that's pretty funny. I don't know. There's things like, we love that. There's things like that happen all the time that, it's great. But the players themselves, the people who, the oil that makes the NBA machine run, they matter. And you do too. You as basketball fans, you guys as subscribers, you guys who, if you're just casually watching this video, I'm sorry, I'm really discombobulated. I didn't go to sleep, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just need to go to sleep or something. I don't know. Your state of being mentally is simultaneously remarkably important to talk about and nobody's business. So what's going on in the NBA when all these players are dealing with certain things, and we heard about it in the bubble. Like, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned Paul George. I apologize. This also happened to Paul George in the bubble last season. Everybody, the pandemic P thing, and he's like, hey, I'm actually not doing great. And some people cut it out. I cut it out after that, and then I tried to sort of keep that same energy the rest of the season. Unfortunately, I need to be better in that way too. A lot of us do. However it is that you're feeling, whether it's good, whether it's bad, it's incredibly valid. And if it's bad, if you're like me and it's bad, and I just want to say everything's fine, for the sake of the video, we need to get serious, your feelings are remarkably valid. I know that people like to think that unless you have some sort of stature, some social standings, that's the only reason that anything that you think or feel or say or believe is going to matter. But that's not true. However you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, whatever you want to do, you should absolutely do it. You should say it. You should feel it. It doesn't matter, because you are so remarkably important, no matter who you are. Even somebody who's like kind of left it up to some weird speculative stuff, like Kyrie, well, a lot of people thought that this video, when I tweeted that I was going to do a mental health thing, I think people thought that I was going to do a Kyrie thing. I got a lot of tweets about you're going to do the Kyrie thing. No. What bothers me is people on like NBA Twitter, and people are always like, it's just Twitter. It's just jokes. It's not that serious. It's just, do you realize that when you are susceptible to being performative all the time, literally all the time, every time you're on Twitter, it's an act. Every time I'm up here, it's an act. Every time you're having a conversation with, like, you can be genuine and you can be authentic, but whenever you guys do your ratio or a Disney or Lamicki or all that stuff, you're just putting on a show. You guys are trying to impress people, and you guys are trying to make it known. Like, and you don't understand that you are going to form such a dependency on whatever shtick it is that you do, and you're gonna. It does. Is it that serious, though? Do I need to get this? I wish that people could detach themselves from certain moments and just exist and realize that the internet is not that serious, while simultaneously being incredibly that serious and remarkably scary, and something that you should be terrified of, and something that you should try to, again, detach yourself from, because you are going to get eaten alive like me. We consistently put ourselves in these performative positions that do nothing but perpetuate misery because we have this cultivated sense of entitlement where we feel like we need this instant gratification, and then when it doesn't pay off, this is the whole look. If you made it this far in the video, thank you very, very much. If you're new, they're not all like this. I don't know that we're going to be doing another one like this, so feel free to drop a like, leave a comment, let me know. Are you miserable? Are you miserable too? I'm fine, Grandma. I'm okay, I promise. Thank you, guys. You guys have been great to me, man. And I don't know that I'll ever really be able to articulate what I'm pissed about this shot getting messed up, though. That sucks.